as I was saying, you can click the 3 dots and it just will show at this point just the caption. The caption I'm putting here, it's the text of this one application button I'm putting on, right? The text is just the keyword add. Notice that I did get some content here when I installed that toolkit using NuGet, right? It did add this toolkit.content and gave me some PNG files that I could use for application bar buttons, you know, a little add and cancel and so on, delete buttons and so on. So I'm just using one of those as the actual icon for the button. The little plus symbol is the add, right? And there's a click event, so that way the user will be able to click my little add button and call an event handler in my code behind for the page. So that's all the work I'm going to do in the XAML for now. I'm sure people have read these comments, see that what there is there's a PNG that ships with the tool that you can uncomment this, and it shows you like a grid in the design view, right? But you want to take that out before you actually deploy it. But it just could be useful. Some people like to use that when lining things up. Okay, so let's go to the code behind now and look at the changes we have to make here. This is fine when I was just basically getting the data and showing it. Bada bing, bada boom. But now I'm going to want to basically show the data after every time I select a different department, right? So instead of putting it in page loaded, I probably should make my own little event to show the data. So this I'm still going to need in here. I might as well leave that alone. But all of this I'm going to take out. And really what I want to do is I want to call show data. Okay. Oh. It says, what are you talking about? Well, let's see. Generate method stuff for show data. Thank you. I love it when it does work for me. All right. So I'll come back to, right now I'll just throw a not implemented exception. That's just always there to make sure you don't forget that you left work undone, right? Not that you would ever do that, but I do that kind of thing all the time. Okay, now a couple of things before we'd be ready to call our show data. Obviously, I would want to do a bit of other preparation work. And let me just grab some of my code behind here. I still need to use page loaded to get the drop-down list ready. That's still something I have to do first before I'm ready to show the data. So coming back up here to page loaded, right? There's my, actually I meant to do it in an intermediate step. Sorry, I kind of forgot about that. Let me undo. And just to talk about this a step at a time now, because I'm trying to slow down a little bit. That line would be enough to go and get all the departments from the database, right? Because if you look on the right-hand side of the assignment statement here, this app.activedb.departments toList. That would give me a list of departments, right? And I could assign that as the item source to my drop-down list control, the one that I got from my toolkit. And that would work. I would now have a list of all the departments displayed in my drop-down list. Yay! Should I test it? Oh, I'm feeling in a dangerous mood. Let's see. No. Oh, yeah, of course. I got all those other event handlers I haven't added the code for yet. Sorry. All right, trust me. If I did have those there, it would have displayed the drop-down list. The code is sufficient for that. Okay, forgive me. Kind of forgot. Got ahead of myself there. But this isn't the ideal thing because you remember how we like to set up filters. When you're going to filter by a department, we probably want to have an option for all, right? No point just only being able to see one department at a time, because it's normally nice in terms of user interface design to give a way to remove the filter and have all departments. So that's where my previous version of the code came in. Because instead of just grabbing the list and assigning it the item source, let me see if I can just use undo here to get... No, it's... Okay, I'll copy and paste in again. Okay, I'm just going to throw this in as well just because I have a comment. All right. Oh, I took up my show data. Arr. There it is back. Okay, so this extra bit of logic I'm putting in then is I go and get a list. Okay, remember I used toList to return a list, so I set it up as a list of department objects. Okay, I just called it dlist because I was not feeling very inventive in terms of coming up with names that day, so dlist is what occurred to me. And then I am manually adding my own. Why not? You can play God, you're the programmer. You don't have to just live with what comes from the database. That's not good enough. I want to add my own department, even though it doesn't exist in the database. I'm going to fake it, right? So I'm going to stick in here a department where the ID is 0 and the name is all departments, right? Notice the space at the beginning of the name. So if I do sort it alphabetically, it'll be at the top. Okay. All right, so there we go. So now I'll be able to look for 0 as a department ID and know, doesn't that ring a bell? Remember we did that exact same type of thing with our drop-down lists and web forms and so on as well, that we use that little flag of 0 to know that hey, that means no filter. Thank you very much anyway, right? So by setting that here, now I've added an additional department. So now, as I assign the item source, I'm just going to take my list, because it's an object, I can use link to objects, so I can sort my list very easily with this link query, essentially, just adding a lambda for order by. Right? An extension method here, order by, and pass the lambda expression to specify it's the name I want it alphabetically ordered by. So as long as I don't have any other names to start with a space, I'm guaranteed that mine will be at the top of the list. And I shouldn't have any other departments with a space at the first letter, but anyway. All right, so now I have accomplished the same thing, but I've added my own artificial entry at the top of the list for all departments. Okay, then I call show data. Well, let's think about what has to go inside show data. Basically, the code I had when I started this, right? This step of everything, where I actually go get the employees and bind that as the item source of my list. The only difference is now I'm also going to filter for the department, right? Okay, so show data will end up with a few steps in it. Instead of not being implemented. Okay, so again, we just grab a reference to that app object, right? Here's my basic employee list, because I may not be filtering, right? So I might as well just, remember we don't actually execute a link query until the end, all right? So it's not like we're wasting time here, okay? So I do my initial setup for my link query, and then I have a try catch here just to see whether or not I actually have a department I can pick from, et cetera, right? So if casting the list picker selected item to a department, right, storing that here in a department object, if the department ID is greater than 0, then A, two things. I know I actually have a department, and the ID is greater than 0. So I'm going to filter for this one department. So basically, I'm adding a where clause, and we did the same type of thing in MVC, where we could add more and more restrictions to a link query in separate command lines, right? So I'll just add a .where extension method that the employee department, okay, matches my selected department. Notice I'm not actually comparing ID numbers here, right? I'm actually comparing the department object. Okay. I only threw it in a try catch because, again, sometimes things happen before you're ready. So I just avoided that problem. Okay. And then depending on whether you want to sort it alphabetically or by job title, I just have two versions here, so you can uncomment whichever one you like. Right? It's pretty obvious what this code is doing. I'm just adding an order by, then by, so for last name and first name. If instead I wanted my list of employees alphabetically by the job title, I could just use the alternate sorting approach. That's pretty much a design decision. I just changed my mind at one point when I was making this up. That's why both are there. I figured my